Hello, welcome back to a new video in the Introduction to the Linux Command Line series. In this video, we're going to look at two commands, the copy command and the move command. The copy command allows you to copy files and directories. The move command allows you to move, like cut, paste, files and directories, or rename files and directories. Let's get started. All right, so you might be thinking, why would you want to use the command line to say like copy file? So you could, like, for instance, decide which file you want to copy, say c-file.txt, copy, and then paste, and then you're done. Why do you need any commands to achieve that? And the reason why, I do agree, if you're just copying one file, it might be easier to just do it from the file explorer. However, say that you want to copy all the files that have a txt extension and also don't start with a number. So you're going to be like, okay, so I'm going to skip 1, 2, 3. I'll copy this. I'll copy this. Oh, this doesn't have a txt extension. This doesn't. So you see how it gets a little complicated because you're going to have to like keep track of which files fit that criteria and which don't. So if you remember from the previous video, we looked at wildcards and we know we can achieve, what did I say? All the files that start with a letter. So any file that starts with a letter could be described by alpha, right? And then we can have an asterisk, and then we can have txt at the end, right? And then if I ls, well, I got all the files that I want to copy. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy, I'm going to have that expression pasted here, txt, and then I'm going to select the destination to be, do you know what? I'm going to create a new folder here. Create new folder. I'm going to call it new folder. And then I'm going to paste everything in new folder. And there you go. All the files that I intended to copy have been copied using a simple command. All right, so let's look at the way the command is structured. Okay, so I've got the command itself, cp, and I need a source and a destination. So two arguments that we're going to pass to the command. And we can optionally pass some options that you can put over here in between the command itself and the first argument. And here are some examples. So let's go in the code, in the terminal, and look at different ways we can use the copy command. As you can see, I have a folder here called copy demo. And in there's file1, file2, and notes all.txt, and a backup folder. And in my terminal, my working directory is cp-demo. So the way the copy command works is you give it a source or sources, as we'll see later, and destination. So I will copy file1.txt into copy1.txt. And notice what's going to happen here. So I'll hit enter and I get copy1.txt. So here, the destination copy1.txt did not exist, and it was created via copying file1.txt into a new file called copy1.txt. All right, now what if the destination exists as a directory? So copy notes.txt backup, which is a directory, right? What happens when you execute that? If you go in backup, you see that notes.txt, you could repeat that and say 1.txt. Now you've specified a destination directory and a file name, so a destination file name. If you hit enter and you go into backup, you see that the new file has a different file name. What if you want to copy, say, copy1.txt into, I don't know, notes.txt? Notes.txt exists. It's not empty. It's got hello world. Copy1.txt also has hello world. So let's put 2 in copy1.txt, which is this source, and see what's going to happen to the destination. So if I enter and I look at notes.txt, now it says hello world 2 instead of just hello world. So what happened here is we've overwritten the destination file using the source file. Now you could add an option -i for interactive, which means that if there's going to be an overwrite situation like the one we have here, it's going to prompt you with cp, overwrite notes.txt, and you can reply with y for yes, and that's going to overwrite it, or you can reply with no. Let's try both cases. Let's try and change the value of copy1 to hello world I don't know, 100. So the first time I'm going to use the interactive option and I'm going to give it no. And let's see the contents of notes.txt doesn't change. Now I'm going to try again. I'm going to hit yes. And let's look at the contents of notes.txt. Now it's changed to 100. So the overwrite operation has been done successfully. We looked at the interactive option for the copy. Let's look at the preserve attributes. So attributes could be things like timestamps, permissions, etc. For permissions, we haven't talked about permissions yet, so don't give it much attention for now, but keep it in the back of your mind. Cool. I'm going to show you how that works by copying, or actually ls-la. I'm going to pick this file, copy one, right? So it was created on August 23rd at 1624. So I'm going to copy one. I'm going to paste now.txt. Then if I ls-la, I see that now is created on August 23rd, but it's 8:51 p.m., which is right now, 8:51 p.m. All right. If I use the preserve and I copy one, or any file for that matter, and preserve.txt, and then I ls-la, I can clearly see here that the timestamp attribute and other attributes have been preserved. So for our last option, recursive, which is for copying directories and their contents. So how does that work? Say I want to copy this directory. Now it's got a couple files in it. Let's say I want to create a directory next to it called backup2. So I'll say copy backup2 and hit enter. And it's complaining that I did not specify -r. So it recognizes that the source is a directory, but there is no -r. So -r would basically mean that go within the directory, and then if there's any more directories in there, go recursively until you hit the very end of the tree and copy every file that you encounter recursively into the destination, which is backup2. So what we'll do here is we'll add the -or option, and that's going to allow us to copy backup into backup2 recursively. The next command we're going to look at is the move command. It basically moves or renames files and directories. The syntax is very similar: move, source, and destination. It's got options like interactive. So like we've seen, if it's about to overwrite a file or directory, it's going to ask you. No overwrite, the -n, which would ensure that overwriting doesn't happen. So instead of having interactive and always saying no, 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 this is just is going to be a non-interactive operation, but it's going to never overwrite. And then -v for verbose, which will just basically show you what's happening. And then we've got a bunch of examples here. So I will show you this folder that I prepared, which is move demo. It's got archive, which is empty, and it's got A and B. A has content test file A, B has content test file B. Let's get started. Right, so for our first move command, we're going to type in mv, and I'm going to type a.txt. And then for the destination, I'm going to move it into the archive. Now, this is the destination. If it exists as a directory, then it's going to say, all right, I'm moving a.txt onto or inside that directory. If it doesn't exist as a directory, then it's going to assume this is the final file name that I'm going to give to the moved file. So if you hit enter, we see that A was there and is no longer there anymore. And if I go inside archive, I see that A is inside of archive. So I'm going to move A back into its place. So I can either change directory into archive and then move A this way, a.txt back one level up. And that is specifying a destination, basically. And the destination is go back one level up. And we see that A is moved back. I'm going to redo the moving of A into archive. I had to go back into move demos instead of being in archive. So back in move demo, I can move a.txt again into archive. And then I can say move archive a.txt. And then I can specify the location or the destination where it needs to be moved to by using the dot, which refers to the current directory. And I hit enter, and I see that A was moved back into the move demo. So what if I wanted to move a.txt into archive1? I'm in move demo and I don't see any archive1 directory. So if I hit enter, well, I see that a.txt is no longer there, but there is an archive1. Basically what we've done is we've renamed a.txt into archive1. And if you open it, it's still the same test file A, but it's been given a different name. It's similar to doing this. Let's use the -v option for verbose. So move -v a.txt, and I don't know, I'm going to move it into c.txt. I enter, and I see that some useful information has been printed. That's really nice. As opposed to moving c.txt back into a.txt. That's not going to print any information. So if you're trying to move a.txt into archive and then give it a different name like g.txt, you can absolutely do that. So let's move back archive g.txt into a.txt. Cool. What if you want to move it into a directory that doesn't exist on the disk? So repeating that, we don't have directory archive1. So what will happen when you hit execute? It says no file or directory, which is the archive1 that doesn't exist. So for more options, we have the dash. We've seen the -v, we have the -i for interactive, and the -n for do not overwrite. So let's try move a.txt, and remember this had the content that says it's A, and this has the content that says it's V. So if you move that onto b.txt and you hit enter, well, by default, it's going to overwrite the contents of b.txt, and it's going to say test file A. All right, so I'm going to copy, paste, and I'm going to say a.txt, and I'm going to change the contents here to B, save. So again, A and B. We're good. Now I'm going to move a.txt onto b.txt, but this time I'm going to have the n option. So this is saying not replacing b.txt because it detects that we're about to erase the contents of b.txt and replace it with a.txt. So it didn't allow us to do that. If you use I, instead of denying it, it's going to ask you, are you sure you want to overwrite b? And if you say no, it's going to not overwrite b. But if you say yes, it will overwrite the value of b. Reload from the disk, and you see test file A. For moving directories, we don't have to specify -r for the move command. It just works. So moving directories can literally cut paste a directory, or you can rename a directory. So we're going to rename this directory archive, and I'm going to name it, I don't know, directory. And that did the trick. It's empty at the moment. So I'm going to move, what was it? b.txt into directory. And then I'm going to move directory back one level. So now the move demo is empty. And if I go back, where's directory? Here's directory, and it's got my B file that was overwritten from A and says test file A. In the beginning of the video, we saw how we could copy all the files that end with a HTML extension to any place. So say we have two folders here, 1.2 and 1.2.3. So I can copy all the HTML files to say 1.2. And if I go in 1.2, the two files have been copied. I'm just going to delete them for now and go back. Same also goes for move. You can move all the HTML files to, let's say, 1.2, and then you see them there. I'm going to cut and move them back in here. All right, so what do we conclude here? We conclude that, do you remember the syntax was CP, source, and then destination, right? Same for move, source and destination. Well, it turns out you can have many sources and one destination. Let me show you what I mean. So for copy, you can have file1.html, file2.html. So those are going to be considered, well, if you do nothing, then this is source, this is destination. But if you add 1, 2, then this becomes source, source, destination. So this whole block becomes the sources, the files that you're going to copy. And if you hit enter, you get the 2 files copied in here. All right, so what does that teach us about what is going on when you do HTML and then the destination 1, 2? What happens here is, well, it turns out the way wildcards are processed by Bash is this gets evaluated first. This gets evaluated into this, and then the command is executed. So essentially, the CP command doesn't really need to work with wildcards. Wildcards are being processed at the command interpreter level, not at the command level. Okay? Now, that being said, it does make sense when you have a wildcard that the files are present on the system. So file 1, file 2 are present, or even just one of them is present, so that the evaluation works. If you're trying to evaluate a destination that still doesn't exist in the file system, well, that's not going to work. Let me show you what I mean. So we're going to attempt moving file 1, the HTML, into my file 1, maybe an asterisk. So that looks to me like a wildcard. It's got an asterisk, right? So what happens when you hit execute? Well, it turns out it just considered it as part of the name. So it basically couldn't match the wildcard, supposedly, to anything. And so it passed it the way it is to the move command, and then the move command was like, oh, that asterisk at the end is just part of the file name. And it renamed it to that. All right. Let me actually, let me rename this to 1, 2, 3, 4. So watch what happens if you're trying to move. Well, file 1 is already moved, so let's try file 2. And you want to move that to 1, 2, asterisk. Watch what's going to happen. You have a move command, and then you have source, and then you have a wildcard that matched 1, 2, and then matched 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So a couple things matched, the 1, 2, and then the 1, 2, 3, 4. So file 2, the HTML, and 1, 2 became the sources. The 2 files or files/directories were about to move. And then the last match, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, that became the destination, which is this one. So 1, 2 and file 2 have been moved to 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a little confusing, but once you understand that the sort of a pre-processing stage of converting all these, like basically any wildcard anywhere in your command is converted into all the matching files, if any, then you would understand, oh, so that's really what's happening. Okay, so this becomes move file 2.html 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if you take these, you cut them and you paste them here again and you execute this, it's going to give you the same outcome. All right, so what if we change the command again, but we added 3? So instead of 1, 2 asterisk, which is going to match this and this, we're only going to match this. So then when you execute this, only one file is moved and the folder stays where it is. And this would be the equivalent of executing 1, 2, 3, 4 as a destination. For one last trick before we end the video, I'm going to type in move 1, 2 asterisk. What do you think is going to happen? 1, I'll give you 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Did you guess that? 1, 2 was moved into 1, 2, 3, 4. So this was the equivalent of doing this. Make sense? Thank you for watching the video. I hope you found it useful. And if you have, well, like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.